Assalamu alaikum, good afternoon. You know, the last speaker before lunch said that that's a graveyard shift, and those speakers were between you and your lunch. I'm between you and your digestive system, which is not a good place to be either. So usually people tend to get a bit slow after lunch, and getting attention from them is as difficult as it is for brands to get attention from consumers these days, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that during my presentation. My name is Asad. I started my career in Pakistan. I started and ran the Group M office here in 1998, and then I went to the UK, did the same job I did in Karachi in Vietnam, got back to London, was offered a role at Unilever, did a global role in media for 6 years for their personal care and foods business, and then I've been in Dubai for the past 5 years running media and digital transformation for Middle East and North Africa region. It's an interesting portfolio because part of my job is what really keeps me connected with the traditional world, so media, television, some of the other channels, etc., which we feel are increasingly perhaps less important, but in terms of efficacy, still very important in how the marketing mix works for brands. And there's a part of my job that actually demands that I be completely up to grips with the new technologies like blockchain. We heard a lot about artificial intelligence. We're doing a lot of work on analytics and predictive modeling, applying cognitive technologies to do continuous modeling for ROI on our brands, etc. But I'm not going to talk about that. What I'm going to talk about today is this whole business of building brands. We're a company that relies on the strength of our brand to be able to make money for our stakeholders and shareholders. So essentially, if you look at the model that Unilever have, we create a product advantage, which basically means that you have a superior product. If you're marketing a detergent, if you're marketing a shampoo, etc., which could sometimes be seen as pretty similar kind of products. But our edge lies in not only turning that product into a superior product, but also making sure that the brands under which those products go to market are actually seen as superior and closer to the consumers. The reality is that that business of making or building brands has changed dramatically over the past few years. Somebody talked about the fact that where we were 10 years ago, we wouldn't be 20 years from now. I actually say that where you were 10 years ago, you're not there now. And in fact, if you don't start making changes to your marketing and brand building models today, you're probably not going to survive the wave of change that we're going through today. There's a saying in Unilever, which we use quite a lot, that the speed of change will never be this slow again. And I think that's something that we all got to keep in mind. There was a time that we could get away with something like this. I don't know if you can see, it's an ad for our ice cream which talks about the summer being as a weather, and somebody put that skin out there and forgot to take it off, and suddenly winter came and snowfall started. And imagine a consumer's response to a communication like that. And I guarantee you that to date, marketers commit very childish, what we call schoolboy, schoolgirl errors in their marketing even today. But it is becoming increasingly difficult to ignore stuff like that, because earlier on, there was this outdoor somewhere in a distant neighborhood from your offices, and you had no way of keeping an eye on whether that creative has been pulled down by the supplier or not. But today, you have digital media which can give you real-time signals of what your ad is doing, how is it being seen, what consumers are watching it, etc., etc. So pulling off these mistakes are no longer something that you're, as a marketer, allowed to do anymore. And I think partly because of these kinds of schoolboy and schoolgirl errors, there is an increasing, what I may call, cynicism towards brands within consumers as such. And if this was a piece of research Havas did globally. I'm not sure if Pakistan was a part of that, but I'm absolutely certain Middle East, North Africa was. Imagine if you were in a business that actually makes money on the back of building good brands, and if you were to come across that research, it basically said that 75% of what you think is value for you is actually not value for you. People don't really care about those brands. And if they were to disappear for good, people wouldn't even notice. And that's a serious, serious state of affairs for anybody who's in the business of building brands. And to me, this actually says as much about consumer cynicism towards brands as much as it says about our ability to build brands in these changing dynamics and changing contexts, cultural and societal contexts that we're living through. I mean, imagine, I'm not going to harp on about the fact that we've changed and these are the new technologies and digital media which is going to take on most of our lives, but just a decade ago, the world was very different. I mean, forget about consumers. I have difficulty keeping attention from some of you because you're constantly staring on your mobile screens. 10 years ago, those screens didn't exist. Twitter didn't exist, Facebook didn't exist, YouTube didn't exist, social media as a platform didn't exist. And of course, the way we go to market with our products has changed as well because e-commerce is a reality which we can't close our eyes to anymore. Even in markets like Pakistan, you've seen some of the mushrooming e-commerce startups which are legitimate high-volume businesses now. And it'll be any day now that you start to see big brands like Amazon. Alibaba's already thinking about it coming into the market as well. So, if you look at it from that perspective, technology has an amazing amount of impact on society. It has given power to the consumers. It has given a lifestyle that we didn't really have earlier on to consumers, etc. So in a way, we're living through perhaps some of the most fantastic times of our lives. But at the same time, if you see what's happening in the world otherwise, economically speaking, from a conflict point of view, or from the political divide that you see increasingly between the right and the left, it's also perhaps the worst of the times that we're living through in the history. And when brands and marketeers build their brands, they do not build them in boardrooms, staring at big, large LCD screens, listening to jingles on a hi-fi song. They build brands in the marketplace where the consumers are actually going through what the society is going through. And for anybody who's building brands, as you keep an eye on technology and you keep an eye on data and stuff, I think the fact that we're living through a completely different world is an equally important measure to keep account of. Otherwise, the brands become increasingly less relevant, as the research from Havas showed. We talk about the future. I was talking about the fact that most of us speculate in the fact that we wouldn't be here in 10 years' time. I can tell you that you're already here. The future is already here. If you look at increasingly some of the most successful new brands, their way of building brands and building marketing programs is very different to how we, as marketers, have looked at it, building our brands traditionally. Personalization is increasingly an important factor. What facilitates personalization is technology. What facilitates personalization is data. And to be honest, in the world of advertising, not just here in Pakistan, but globally, I know of very few people who've actually totally embraced the world of technology and data to facilitate that sense of personalization for the consumers, be it from a brand communication perspective or from the product perspective. I'm going to show you an example of work a little later on that we've done a little, in this area. I think consumers have also become a bit more impatient than they were in the past. Their desire for instant gratification and a superior experience on their mobile screens and electronic screens is far greater than it ever was in the past. A lot of automation has actually given rise to the whole culture of instant gratification and personalization as well. So the way we organized businesses has also changed. The way we organize supply chains, the way we organized distribution chains has completely changed. We actually have, just to give you an example, we have a very interesting partnership in Middle East, North Africa, with a startup called InstaShop. InstaShop is an e-commerce platform, but they're really not an e-commerce platform. And let me explain what that is. InstaShop essentially is a demand aggregation platform. What they do is, on a Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, lying on your couch, they give you the ability to go through a shopping list on your mobile and order whatever groceries you need delivered through your local grocery store, and the grocery store does the delivery and the fulfillment. So InstaShop is essentially providing a consumer experience. We've heard a lot about consumer experience today, but InstaShop has made an entire business out of aggregating demand through a superior consumer experience, and have actually had amazing amount of success in the business. They roughly cover close to 15 to 20% of the general trade across GCC, which is a huge number. What we're doing with them is we're actually, in a partnership with them, we have access to their data in real time at Unilever. And what that gives us is ability to know where our product is being picked up, which journal store, which neighborhood, and if that product was not available on shelf at that point in time, what were consumers picking up instead? And using that data, we're able to automatically send off a replenishment of the shelf in real time. So that automation that I'm talking about from a business process perspective have had tremendous amount of impact on how you actually do business as a marketer today. Immersive shopping experiences. I'm sure you guys have heard about the fact that InstaShop is thinking of launching their own e-commerce apps because they found that the conversion rates on their e-commerce advertising on InstaShop are ridiculously high. I'm sure you've been alluded into one USB, whatever, power bank or something or the other on value actually on your Instagram. And because it's such an immersive experience, you can instantly get folded into buying or purchasing that product, and you can sort of find out more about that product as well. Another interesting aspect of companies like Unilever is that we built our business on scale, and we built our businesses on massive infrastructure that we develop across the world. I mean, we're global companies and stuff, but that strength that we considered was our strength is actually having a complete rethink in how businesses actually use scale and leverage in their massive manufacturing facilities and programs. To give you an example, in the past 2 to 3 years, globally, we've done about 21, 22 acquisitions of brands like Dollar Shave Club, Murad, Dermalogica, T2, etc. Most of these brands are direct-to-consumer brands, which meaning that they either go to consumer directly through an e-commerce channel or they have their own retail presence. And majority of those brands, actually all of those brands, do not own a single factory. Most of them outsource their production to a third party, somewhere in Korea or China, and they package their products and they sell directly to consumers. What is their edge? Their edge lies in building a consumer experience and being able to get to that consumers with that, that strength of the brand that they're building. So that brand building, if you look at something like a Dollar Shave Club, for instance, I'm not sure how many of you are actually familiar with that brand. That brand built their entire business on the back of a viral video, a social media video, their entire business. That company started out about 10 years ago, peaked at, before we bought them for close to $1 billion, they were peaking at a $450 million revenue just in the US, and now they're expanding globally. So, marketing, the business of marketing has completely changed. As a result of that, the way you build brands has completely changed as well. Our response to those changes, in most cases, has been just sweat and stretch whatever you have right now. Try and make that work, and it'll probably start to work. Imagine it was like the first TV ad. It was a radio ad with a picture on the screen. This is exactly what we're doing with digital. We're putting our TV ads on Facebook and YouTube, knowing very well that a consumer is not going to live through that harmony playing for the first 15 seconds of build-up of an emotion before they actually press the skip button on YouTube, or before they roll their thumbs up on the Facebook to actually completely ignore your ad. There's a saying that thumbs roll faster than the brains can think these days, and this is a reality. You have very little chance of making your products visible if you don't make an immediate impact in your pieces of communication. We don't seem to be caring too much about that these days. We talked a lot about data. There was a question in the room on Cambridge Analytica as well. What Cambridge Analytica did, in my opinion, to the business of brand and marketing is showed us what really is possible with that data. I mean, come to think of it, what they did was misuse of data because they didn't have permission on privacy of the users, and they misused permissions from Facebook and how their data was being used. But what they were doing was essentially the holy grail of marketing. Like being able to reach consumers with a tailored, personalized, effective messages in order to have an impact so high that not just in terms of brand purchase, you're able to swing their opinions from a presidential candidate perspective, or an opinion on the fact whether Britain should remain as part of Europe or not. So that field of data, if that can power that, and if, like Stephen was saying this morning, if that data is not center part of your brand communication and marketing strategy, we have very little hope of surviving. Consumers are also by virtue of that access they have to the world, are pretty much living their lives very differently. We used to see the world through our two own eyes, but right now we see the world through the eyes of our screens, not directly. This is a very interesting picture. This is when the first presidential debate prior to the last US election happened between Senator Clinton and now President Trump. And when she came out, she had a whole fan base, waiting for her to shake hands with her, and she wanted to address them standing on that podium, but nobody was interested in looking at her. They were all just looking backward in their phones because all they wanted was a selfie with her in the background. And that's the kind of experience consumers are looking for. We have no hope if we just want to be in your face and want to make our brands notice at that level. Hillary Clinton can't do that, so good luck to most of the brands. There's another very important factor, which is actually partly the title of my presentation as well, is the need for brands to be purposeful and sincere in their approach to marketing to consumers. This is a poster from the Real Beauty campaign we launched on Dove. This was, I think, good 10 to 12 years ago. It was for the first time we decided as a brand that we're not going to use models in our advertising. We're going to use real women, and we're going to advocate for real beauty, basically meaning that we think beauty is as much an outside job and a parent's job as it is an inside job. You have to be able to feel beautiful to be able to look beautiful. And that changed the game for how beauty brands were marketed all across the world. And I think Dove, on the back of that, became one of the biggest Unilever brands in our portfolio as well. And to date, it stands out as a piece of work where if you're looking to build purpose into your brands, there are very few examples that come up in the world. I'm a fan of a few other brands that have done it, like Patagonia as well. But Dove remains a hallmark, a brand, a mass market brand that started on that trend of building a purposeful communication with the consumers. Our ecosystem is also changing. You have a lot of agencies in the room. This is the list of top 10 agencies from 2017, the AdAsia list of top 10 agencies from US. Now, while US is not like a 100% indicator of how the markets in the rest of the world behave, but do you know that 4 out of these top 10 agencies are not even agencies? They're consulting firms. Accenture being on top, WPP being last. And do you know why that happening? Why that is happening? Why is that business moving from agencies into big consultancies? Because consultancies were partly technology companies, and they had enough investments in data and technology infrastructure to embrace the change of data and technology that we're talking about today. I mean, Adobe moved from being a Photoshop builder to a completely marketing technology platform, and look at their stock price in the past 2.5 years. It's shot through the roof because they're able to provide the technology infrastructure, holistic technology infrastructure to brands, which they need today to be able to market their brands, etc. So this is a sign of times, guys. I mean, we know that the agency businesses have been thinking long and hard about how to reshape their models and whether it is too much fragmentation in how we provide skills, specialist skill sets to the market. We have a search agency, we have an activation agency, we have a content agency, we have a media agency, then we have a brand agency, and the client, by the time is able to get everybody into the same room, the launch timelines have already passed. And by the time the work comes back, and by the time that harmonization across the work happens, there's no need for that harmonization to take place in most cases. So that, again, is an amazing amount of change that's going to sweep through a lot of us, existence, in my opinion. How do we tackle some of these things that I've talked about? How do we sort of deal with some of these things at Unilever? And I'm going to basically spend the next 2 or 3 minutes explaining how we do it, and then I'm going to show you 2 examples of what we've done as a result of how we're trying to deal with some of these changes in the past. So we have something called a 5C framework at Unilever. And that 5C framework sounds very simple. Sometimes becomes very, very complicated to understand and practice. But what we have at the heart of that 5C framework is the whole concept of consumer journeys. I think Dr. Farah from LUMS also talked about that concept of consumer journeys becoming increasingly complicated just now. But if you look at it, what is a consumer journey? Consumer journey essentially is your ability to see a consumer move from one point of interest or media or entertainment to the other, etc., And digital actually provides for that feedback of data very easily. You can actually see if a consumer searched for a hair care brand. From that search, the user went to the website of an XYZ brand, and then what they did at that website, et cetera, you're able to actually serve advertising, pinpointing specialist touch points within that consumer journey. What makes mapping of that consumer journey is the whole concept of data that lies at the heart of it. What we do once we identified the consumer journeys, we plot touch points at each stage of the consumer journey, and that's the part of the work that we do as part of our Connect C that you see in the framework. Content is where we identify what content do we need to show to consumers at those specific touch points. And then we have the Commerce C, which is all about making sure that whatever we do from a communication perspective drives energy towards purchase from a consumer point of view. Sounds simple, but it's very difficult sometimes to get it right. And in most cases, even we on 100% of the brands do not get this model right all the times. What I'm going to show you as an example of something that actually looks at this consumer journey very, very interestingly is a case study of a launch of one of our flagship brand platforms called Dirt is Good. When we launched that platform in the Middle East, our biggest struggle or biggest barrier to entry to that market was not the fact that our esteemed competition had roughly 70 to 75% market share and the retailers were not willing to listen to us. Our biggest hindrance was that the consumers actually didn't think dirt is good. Middle East is a very religious market, as we are, as Pakistan. Thinking of dirt as good simply wasn't allowed in the society. So we had to get over that mental barrier within the minds of the consumers to be able to launch that brand population. We're very proud of the work that team did. It won a WARC Global Media Prize. It won the WARC Strategy Prize. It won 2 golds at the Effies. It won a silver at the Global Effies in New York, and it was shortlisted for 4 trophies at the Cannes Lions the year when we launched it. So I'll just play the video of case study for you. Can we play this video, please?
This may be the dullest ad in the history of Cannes, but all 23 hours of it were dull for a good reason. You see, we're the least active kids in history. That's because we spend less than an hour a day playing outside and getting dirty, which is also bad news for people who make washing powder, like Omo. So to help them out and wake parents up to the fact that we are the least active kids ever, we created the longest live stream in history. All 23 hours of it showed one of us doing what we do best. Absolutely nothing. Well, apart from sleeping, playing video games, checking in on social, and watching Netflix. We also made a 7-hour video about screen time, and a 4-hour one about TV time. Parents spent an average of 5 minutes watching the ads, which makes it one of the most viewed live streams on YouTube and Facebook to date. But more importantly, the ads highlighted the inactive lifestyles of kids today, which ignited a fierce debate online. In just 23 hours, the campaign received 5.9 million interactions. Even leading TV channels picked up on the story. With millions of parents debating the inactivity of kids today, we switched from provoking them to helping them. We teamed up with child psychologists who responded online in real time, explaining the importance of active play. Webisodes were created with medical professionals to help parents overcome key challenges, and ambient messaging in playgrounds drove parents online to know more about the campaign. Finally, we turned eBay into an advertising channel by giving away kids' swings and slides for free to help encourage more outdoor play. By the end of the campaign, 82% of parents voted to get their kids outside more often. Now that's good news for both us kids and washing powder brands.
Thank you. The second case study that I'm going to show you is actually in that whole concept of personalization at scale that I was talking about, using data to be able to deliver relevant messages to the consumer. We did it last year. Again, very proud of this work because it needed a completely different approach to how we look at building up a campaign. We did it in a very short time of 12 hours. And this also won a gold at the Effies this year, and this was also given a bronze in the category of data-driven marketing. And please play the video.
Ramadan is a Super Bowl of the Middle East. The holy month is a busy time, filled with family gatherings, non-stop congregations, and many joyful moments. Because of the social culture of this month, the risk of germs spreading and people falling ill rises drastically. The skin cleansing brand wanted to prevent germs from spreading during the spiritual month and gain a sizable market share. Introducing the preventive pre-rolls. Data revealed that beside the threat of germs, online consumption of videos also soars high during Ramadan, especially on YouTube, which sees a huge peak in its average watch time. We decided to tap into this and talk to people in moments that matter. We partnered with Google and created a command center that monitored real-time social conversations and behavior. We spotted the biggest trends and served people with hyper-personalized contextual videos, reminding them to protect themselves from germs before sharing moments with their loved ones. AI tools, content creation, precise targeting, all within 12 hours. Here's how we did it. The micro-targeting strategy identified 7 key moments: food, family, entertainment, fitness, sports, gaming, and makeup, which the AI further broke down based on different variables. Covering demographics, specific interests, intents, keywords, and time of search were taken into account, and 43 targeting moments were created. We then developed 45 different creative assets that complemented the conversation seamlessly. For example, a mother of 2 looking for cake recipes during Ramadan would be served with this pre-roll. A teenager searching for quick pre-iftar workout ideas would be shown this. The real-time turnaround improved the reach of the campaign massively. The pre-rolls achieved an unprecedented 92.12% view-through rate. We gained 4.1% market share in the hand wash segment and improved brand relevance by 3% in 1 quarter. We also saw a lift in ad recall of 14.3% and favorability of 12.7%. Lifebuoy Superfast Hand Wash won Ramadan conversations, while germs lost the battle.
This really is, from me, thank you so much. Thank you so much to the Extreme Council of Marketing Association of Pakistan. Thank you, Sarmad. And if you have any questions, I'm sure we'll get some bit of time after Sarmad's presentation. Thank you.
Ramadan is a Super Bowl of the...
Good afternoon and Assalamu alaikum. The theme of this year's MARCON is marketing in the digitalized world. And I've been asked to, I've been given 10 minutes in a conference, about 1 full day conference where everyone has been talking about nothing else but digital. And I've been given 10 minutes to talk about something which is 400 years old and which, despite what the prophets of doom have been saying since this morning, will not only survive this hyped up age of digitalization, but will thrive in whatever comes nextization. And that is the good old newspaper. I've been a newspaper man most of my life. I started my career in advertising and then moved on to the Jang Group, which is the largest newspaper, multimedia company today. I love and breathe newspapers. The feel and smell of paper and ink still turns me on. Despite whatever a lot of people think, it makes me tick. But in this ever-evolving media landscape, the key challenge for the newspapers is to seamlessly connect the offline, which is the print product, with the online. So the window of pain, what I call the window of pain for newspapers, in our part of the world, and I'm sure in other countries as well, is the fact that the younger audiences, the younger generation, is getting disconnected with the printed product, as they do not find newspapers glamorous or sexy. This is the primary crisis in the print ecosystem. And we, the newspapers, the media companies, need to find opportunity in this crisis. In this crisis, in order to become relevant to the younger generation, to the millennials, to the generation Zs and Xs and Ys or whatever you call them, and bring them back to our fold and try to recreate something that has been like a habit for generations. So ladies and gentlemen, what can we do to make newspapers sexier and glamorous? I'm going to talk about, today I will be sharing with you 3 innovations that we at the Jang Group have done to make newspapers more relevant to the younger audiences and to connect the offline with the online. By introducing these initiatives and innovations, we have tried to connect the younger audiences with the newspaper, the younger audiences who were losing touch with the newspapers. And these initiatives have proven to be game changers for our organization and for some other newspaper companies as well. These 3 specific initiatives are QR codes in the Jang classifieds, augmented reality in augmenting headlines, the newspaper headlines with television headlines, and creating a virtual reality experience for consumers reading newspapers. So let me start with classifieds and the introduction of QR codes in classifieds. Jang Classified is the largest classified platform in the country, despite whatever the portals have been claiming for years and will continue to claim. But Jang Classified is the largest classified platform in the country, with annual revenues exceeding 600 million. The important classified categories, as in other newspapers and platforms, are of course automobiles, real estate, education, matrimonials, and jobs, and so on. Jang Classified is a 20 to 24 page special section which is published every Sunday with the Jang newspaper from 5 of Pakistan's top cities, representing 70% of the urban consumer purchasing power in Pakistan. The advent of online classified portals has had an adverse effect not only on Jang Classifieds, but also on classifieds of other newspapers as well. In fact, there are actually just 2 classified platforms in the print industry in Pakistan. One is Jang and the other is Dawn, which are the most viable classified products in the country. Our classified revenues had declined by something like 17% in 2015 over 2014, and we had a volume decline of almost 20%. The biggest challenge for us was free versus paid ads. The classifieds in a newspaper in Jang is not free, it is paid, and it's premium priced. Dynamic interactive color visuals versus static black and white plain text. So what did we do? We introduced QR codes in the key categories of real estate and automobiles to make consumer experience more dynamic and vibrant, and to deliver value to the consumer by adding video, audio, and photo features to the existing print product. With Jang QR codes, all you had to do was to upload videos or photos of your home or car or whatever and send it to us through either WhatsApp or email and enable us to generate QR code in the print product. This is I'm just going to share the classified campaign with you, but before there are 2 videos. One is a tutorial video, and then there is a commercial that I'll be sharing along with the ads and the campaign that we did.
पाकिस्तान में पहली बार जंग क्लासिफाइड लाया QR कोड की जदीद सहूलत। अब आपके इश्तिहार के साथ दिया गया QR कोड स्कैन करने पर सारिफीन देख सकेंगे तस्वीर और वीडियोस, यानी अब हर डील और भी यकीनी। हर बार यकीनी डील हासिल करने के लिए जंग क्लासिफाइड में अपना इश्तिहार बुक करवाएं। आम क्लासिफाइड इश्तिहार के चार्जेस और QR फीस जमा करवाने के बाद बुकिंग एजेंट QR इश्तिहार की बुकिंग का तस्दीकी SMS आपको भेजेगा, जिसमें इश्तिहार से मुताल्लिक बुनियादी मालूमात, इश्तिहार का रेफरेंस नंबर, पासवर्ड और वीडियो या तस्वीर अपलोड करने के लिए वेब लिंक भी फराहम किया जाएगा। इस वेब लिंक पर क्लिक करें और अपने इश्तिहार से मुताल्लिक वीडियो या तस्वीर अपलोड करें। जंग की जानिब से मंजूरी के बाद ये इश्तिहार अखबार में QR कोड के साथ छप जाएगा और लोग इस कोड को स्कैन करके अपलोड की गई वीडियो या तस्वीर देख सकेंगे। जंग क्लासिफाइड, बरसों का एतमाद।
Print ads.
यकीनी डील है
Commercial.
सिर्फ जंग क्लासिफाइड से। अब पाकिस्तान में पहली बार QR कोड के साथ, यानी QR कोड स्कैन करें और तस्वीरें या वीडियो दोनों देखें। खरीदो फरोख्त में पाकिस्तान भर की पहली चॉइस, जंग क्लासिफाइड, बरसों का एतमाद।
So what has happened in these 2 years since we introduced this in 2016? Our revenues have gone up by 30%. We not only regained what we lost in 2015, but we improved on that, and our volume has also increased by 27%. So we've bounced back, we are back on track, and will continue to do so. From QR codes, we move on to another innovation that we did, which is augmented reality. Augmented reality is relatively a new concept in Pakistan. Jang developed its own augmented reality app, the Jang Real, towards the end of 2016, beginning of 2017, and this was for the first time that any media house in Pakistan made use of augmented reality. Jang Real added value to the news by augmentizing content as well as monetizing it. All you have to do is to scan the headline on the Jang newspaper, headlines in the Jang newspaper, and you move on to the same footage on Jang News, and you can watch that there. Thus, integrating offline with online, we not only provided an experience to the consumer, but also monetized this by getting advertising and sponsorship for it.
इस खबर के लिए ताउन किया है शेल हीलिक्स ने।
अमरीकी महकमा खारजा में ब्रीफिंग के दौरान तर्जुमान मार्क टोनर ने कहा कि कश्मीर पर
And so on. So the newspaper goes live every day. It is not just the static newspaper that you read. What you do is you scan the headlines and you go on to the same story in the same news on Geo News, and can hear it and watch it as well. We also augmentized content. For instance, we did this for PSL, where the PSL stories were provided in the news.
This HBO PSL Sports News is brought to you by HBL.
So you just scanned the news story, and you went on to watch it on Geo Super. This is another example on how we can augmentize content. For instance, Nescafe content is there, and you can actually augmentize it. You can look at the content. It can take you to the Nestle's sort of native advertising in print. Another example, of course, is how you can do Coca-Cola. You can actually just scan the ad and download the entire episodes of Coke Studio. So, what has happened with Jang augmented reality product that we launched about a year and a half, 2 years ago? So far, we have 110,000 downloads. We're on an average 75,000 scans a day. So that is a very big opportunity for people who are looking to augmentize their content or looking for augmentizing their advertising. The third innovation is virtual reality. Jang VR, we introduced virtual reality product in mid-2017. The year marked not only 70 years of Pakistan, but also 70 years of Jang in Pakistan. Although Jang is an 80-year-old brand, this year marks 80 years of Jang because Jang started in New Delhi in 1939. But it's 70 years of Jang in Pakistan because in 1947 it moved to Pakistan and started publishing from Karachi in October. So this was 70 years of Jang in Pakistan and 70 years of Pakistan. We gave our readers a virtual gallery of our front pages from these 70 years. So they could, we called it Pakistan Ki Kahani, Jang Ki Zabani. We called it Jang Ki Kahani, Pakistan Ki Zabani. We asked our readers to download the Jang VR app, scan the key, and experience the 70 years of Pakistan through headlines of the Jang newspaper. The gallery had all important events and happenings that make up our history. Most of these headlines had relevant audio or video clips as well. For instance, there were speeches of Quaid-e-Azam with relevant audio clips of Quaid-e-Azam's speech. There were speeches of Mr. Bhutto, Mohtarama Benazir Bhutto, Mr. Nawaz Sharif, Pervez Musharraf, Ayub Khan, and Prime Minister Imran Khan. And of course, there was video clip of the 1992 World Cup victory that Pakistan achieved under the captaincy of our Prime Minister, Mr. Imran Khan. So it was like walking through a picture gallery of our history. You could actually go in to the virtual gallery and go through your entire history, particularly for the younger audiences who are not that connected with our own history. This was a great opportunity for them to review, look at what Pakistan has been, how we achieved the country, how we struggled for it, and how we have come where we have.
अब देख सकते हैं। देखने के लिए जमीन पर मौजूद निशानात की मदद लीजिए। ऑरेंज निशान बताएगा कि आप कहां देख रहे हैं। अपना सफर शुरू करने के लिए स्टार्ट की तरफ देखें।
There is a narration for every headline.
सन 1948 पाकिस्तान पार्लियामेंट में वजीर खजाना ने आइंदा माली साल के लिए बजट पेश कर दिया।
And there is not only narration but also audio, Quaid-e-Azam.
3 जुलाई सन 1948 सिर्फ इस्लाम ही दुनिया को तबाही और बर्बादी से बचा सकता है। कायद-ए-आज़म का ऐलान।
Quaid-e-Azam's speech at the opening of the State Bank, and so on. So, our innovations have been recognized and acclaimed worldwide. These are 10 awards that we have, global awards that we have won in the last 2 years. INMA, INMA is the International News Media Association, WAN is the World Association of Newspapers, and so on and so forth. So we've got recognition globally for whatever initiatives and innovations we have done. So ladies and gentlemen, who says newspapers are dead? So people who've been talking about newspapers, the death of newspapers since this morning, I think are in good company. Because for one, there is Fawad Chaudhry who talks about the death of traditional media. So I believe these people are in good company. But we don't. We don't believe that newspapers are dead or dying. We believe that newspapers are alive and will continue to thrive. The key challenge for us, the newspapers, lies in recreating the habit and loyalty that has been hallmark of newspapers, not only for decades, but for centuries. But use innovation to connect the offline and the online and to create a connection to, or let me say, reconnect the younger audience with this habit and make the newspapers sexier and glamorous for them so that they find it more appealing for themselves. So, pick up a copy of your favorite newspaper today, which I'm sure is Jang, and experience these exciting innovations. As Asad was saying a little while ago, that the future is here. So if the future is here, newspapers are very much part of that future because they are there printing every day, 365 days a year. And for any information or help that you may need on augmentizing or virtualizing your advertising, you can contact me or my team, which is here today. Thank you very much. And as we say, Jang jari hai.
Thank you, Mr. Sarmad Ali and Mr. Asad Rehman, for your very insightful presentations. I've been told that we have time for one question. Who's the one? I see someone's hand. Do I see anyone? No. Oh, is that a hand going up there? No? No questions? Are you saving your questions for after the break? Or? Okay, we have a question here. One taker.
My name is Amir Aziz Khan. Sir, print जंग तो कभी बंद नहीं होगा, लेकिन print की जो जंग की quality है, वो शायद उसको बंद करवा देगी.
ये क्वेश्चन है या कमेंट है?
Comment.
Actually, आपके जो
तो मैं जवाब देता I don't think I should respond to a comment.
मैं आपका जवाब मैं सवाल ये कर रहा हूँ कि जो अखबार की जो print quality है वो रोज ब रोज
सर मैं आपको एक्सप्लेन करता हूँ क्यों है. बहुत आसान मसला है. मसला ये
हम जैसे लोग जो 50 साल से ऊपर
सर
को जाते हैं,
एक्सप्लेनेशन सुन लीजिए.
तो वो करीब का चश्मा लगाना पसंद नहीं करते.
सर एक्सप्लेनेशन सुन लीजिए, मैं बता देता हूँ. मसला ये है कि अखबार एक तादाद में छपता है और अखबार 1:30 बजे 2 बजे असद साहब यहाँ बैठे हैं, ये अखबार के आदमी रहे हैं, इन्होंने जिक्र नहीं किया, इन्होंने अपना करियर हमारे साथ शुरू किया था द न्यूज़ अखबार में, उनको पता है कि अखबार कैसे छपता है. होता ये है कि 1:30 बजे 2 बजे अखबार जिसको हम कहते हैं इज़ लेट टू बेड, वो तैयार हो जाता है, उसको हम छपने के लिए भेज देते हैं. तो जब छपने के लिए जाता है 3 साढ़े 3 बजे प्रिंटिंग शुरू होती है और 3 साढ़े 3 बजे से लेकर 4:30 5 बजे तक अखबार को बंद करना होता है. हमने छापना है तकरीबन 8 लाख कॉपी, मतलब कराची में हमने कोई 2.5-3 लाख कॉपी छापनी है. जब हम 2.5-3 लाख कॉपी छापेंगे तो हमारे पास भी वही 1 घंटा है. तो हमारी प्रिंटिंग क्वालिटी ऑब्वियसली बाय द टाइम हम उस क्वालिटी को रीच करेंगे तो हमारे लिए मुश्किल हो जाएगा. हमें अखबार टाइम पे देना है, विच इज़ आवर फर्स्ट प्रायोरिटी, नॉट द प्रिंटिंग. हमारी फर्स्ट प्रायोरिटी का अखबार टाइम पे कंज्यूमर को मिल जाए. तो हमें 2.5 लाख 3 लाख कॉपी छापनी है और किसी दूसरे अखबार ने जिसने 15,000-16,000 छापनी है उसके लिए बहुत आसान है, उसके पास 1.5 घंटा है, 15,000 कॉपी छापे और बड़े आराम से निकल जाए. तो ये मसला है. और दूसरी चीज़ जो है ना कि जब आप मुझसे ये मार्केटिंग का फोरम है तो आई एम श्योर रीडरशिप के अलावा जब आप लोग बेसिकली बात करते हैं तो इश्तिहार की बात भी करते हैं. तो आप जब मुझसे बात करते हैं तो आप मुझसे इश्तिहार खरीदते हैं, आप मुझसे मेरी प्रिंटिंग क्वालिटी नहीं खरीदते, मेरे आई बॉल्स खरीदते हैं. वो मैं आपको डिलीवर करता हूँ, अच्छी प्रिंटिंग क्वालिटी हो या बुरी प्रिंटिंग क्वालिटी हो. थैंक यू.
Thank you. All right. It is with great pleasure that I would like to invite Mr. Sikandar Sultan Sahab, Chairman of Shan Foods, to please present the mementos to our speakers. I will, just give me a second. All right. So first we will begin with Mr. Asad Rehman. And now Mr. Sarmad Ali. Thank you, gentlemen.